Hello and welcome to you all to our Resolve the Unsolved forum. In fact, today we have a very exciting topic on which we'll spend roughly 50 minutes plus discussing. But before we come to the topic, let me highlight certain key observations which we had during the last couple of weeks webinar which we had. In fact, we have been getting regular inputs from entrepreneurs and business operators across the sectors on specific requirements in areas like enhancement of logistics, need of refinancing financing, manpower, human talent has been one of the key focus areas on which people have been reworking on. What brings us to our topic today is based on the inputs which we have been receiving, and we thought it's a good opportunity to spend this weekend to have involved discussion around talent. And today we are going to focus on, as well our topics are, talent management during pandemic and beyond. Obviously, talent management is a continuously evolving process in every organization, and it is not different with the pandemic or not pandemic. But what is very crucial, which I was talking to one of our panelists, Mr. Dipankar, today, there is a lot of transition which is happening across the board, be it small organizations or large organizations, even startups. With that, let me introduce you to my team members today. We have Dipankar Gupta. Dipankar, welcome to the forum.
Thank you.
Dipankar is a business transformation leader, an edupreneur, and a certified talent assessor and a coach. In fact, I know Dipankar for quite some time. He is a performance-driven professional and with a distinguished career of more than 25 years plus across education and skill development, also into IT and telecom. At present, he has been focusing on consulting, coaching and career guidance, and closely associated with various corporates. He has worked with organizations like HCL as a head of career development center and with Hughes. Today, it will be good to hear from him about some specific cases and what is the new transition which is happening. Let me introduce you to Mr. Ravindra Goel. Once again, Mr. Goel, welcome to the forum.
Thank you, Sandeep.
Mr. Goel, as most of you know, I call him a tech entrepreneur consistently in all the sessions, and I'd like to stick to that because today he is mentoring and enabling, I would say, few tech startups to reach its next level of goal and see an approach to business generations. I'm not getting into the specifics. Within that, there's a new and a pretty strong project under technology, which is focusing around talent management. We'll go into the details later on. And Mr. Goel, as most of us know, has a rich experience of guiding, enhancing, and providing skills to lakhs and lakhs of students across the country through his centers spread across the country, around 200 plus locations before he moved into this. At the same time, he is also guiding various corporates. I'm part of the team. I do also get involved in various corporate transitions into collaborations. Let's get going. Now, when we talk about talent management, obviously the first question which comes to any entrepreneur or any large or small business operator is acquisition of good talent, and the next is retention. So we will kick off today's discussion with acquisition and retention as a focus area to start off with, and then slowly move into performance management, succession planning, and get into the nitty-gritties as we discuss. Dipankar, if I may request you to throw some light on the subject about acquisition and retention in talent management. How should one go about and why it is so critical? Please, Dipankar.
Thanks, Sandeep. First of all, thanks a lot to you for having me here. So, let me start with the brief about what actually we have been doing. So, we all come from a background where, from early 90s, where we were ourselves engineers and working in different IT and telecom organizations. So, the normal process of hiring had been through our HRs. So they were face-to-face interviews, discussions, and slowly as the things changed, uh, there have been a lot of uh, big requirements coming in different organizations, and with mushrooming of lot of institutions, manpower availability was never a problem. So we started reaching out to various campuses for campus interviews. So that was a traditional way of doing recruitments in our days, which of late has been changing since last few years. And now,
Right. Dipankar, you are muted. Dipankar got muted. Dipankar, yes.
okay, now I am unmuted. Okay. So that has been the traditional way of recruitments, and this required maybe a lot of planning in terms of moving the resources, physical traveling to various institutions for campus hiring. It involved at least a minimum plan of 2 3 days of visits to different colleges. In fact, if the requirements are more, so obviously it was a big task of traveling for at least 2 weeks to different institutions, different parts of the country, shortlisting candidates, and then bringing them to a particular place, and then finally shortlisting and onboarding them. So the challenges used to be, obviously the cost of hiring was really very high, which involved travel time, which involved cost of travel. So because of this, maybe the whole process of hiring was a big maybe time delay which was happening in those times. And the decision in those days, obviously, when you are reaching out to these places and these institutions, but the decisions was for hiring the first timers and the initial people were mostly by the hiring representatives.
Right.
Not a joint decision by the business owners or by the HR directly. So it was mostly through the hiring representatives who were visiting these places and who were taking the first level of so there was always a gap between these hiring managers and the process owners, right? And the other big issue was once these people were brought in, so obviously uh, there was nothing more than the resumes which these people maybe were presenting themselves with. So they now we know the challenges of the resumes. Also, they are all looking similar kind of thing with similar background with of education. So
Yes.
hardly much to really go through and see through these resumes and identify which are the best suitable candidates for their particular. So it was more of a searching and maybe taking chances with a certain group of people, then bringing them on board. Then the other part, because there was a big gap between industry requirements and the academy. So that's how we see a lot of skilling requirement coming in. And that's how maybe in our organization in HCL also we set up our HCL Career Development Centers to bridge that gap between industry and academia. So bringing in people from institutions, training them for our requirements as such for our own IT and other services, and then training them in our premises for about 3 to 6 months and even about a year, and then onboarding them as part of our own employees. Right. So this was the whole process which we used to follow. Right. And now because of that, there have always been certain challenges of high attrition rates also because there was always a gap between what students' expectations are or what industry expectations are. So sometimes at the initial stage itself, the attrition rate was quite high. So that has been the biggest challenge which the industry faces when it comes to campus hiring and recruitment.
Right.
So that that has been the general trend which has been seen since past, maybe you can say just 4 or 5 years back. Now, looking at the current scenario, if you talk about last 2 years also during pandemic times also, or otherwise also in last few years with the mushrooming of our new startup ecosystem, lot of entrepreneurs coming in, and even in terms of our big IT companies, their requirement also increasing. So they are supposed to hire thousands of people across the board. So the whole process has changed, in fact. So because of travel restrictions, right? So not people not able to travel, and even maybe the resources, candidates also not willing to maybe go to different places for taking giving interviews and all. So because of that, now the the things are possibly people are looking at new ways of uh, acquisition, right?
Right.
So
What
that
I will do is, I'll just interrupt over here. Dipankar, sorry to interrupt. Further, I would like to bring in Mr. Goel at this juncture.
right,
Because Mr. Goel have been also simultaneously focusing in this area using technology.
right,
It will be interesting, like you did mention the challenges of acquisition of the right kind of talent.
yes,
Before getting to retention, Mr. Goel, if you remember in the last 2 to 3 years, as we have been interacting, we have been trying to understand and appreciate this problem. There are two sides of it. As we have people listening to us, we have employers and we have young people also who are looking for job and opportunities. So, would you be able to? I expect you to throw some light into the current scenario, Mr. Goel, post-pandemic. What Dipankar shared about the challenges. So, talent acquisition. How do we see it? I would say as a challenge, as an opportunity to get good people, okay, into any kind of organization, large or big. So, I'm asking you a very open question, Mr. Goel, if you can just throw some light on it.
Thank you, Sudeep. I look at it like what you said in two different perspectives.
Right.
The first one is that like in most of the business plans or most of the interaction with the entrepreneurs or the industry people I have done, I see that HR is not a part of their business plan at all. Whereas we plan for the business, sales, growth, expansion, everything, but we do not correlate it with HR and we do not plan it in advance. So the HR has never been a part of the discussion. So that is one problem when we talk about talent management. And the second biggest part is that when the openings are defined, that requirement is defined, that what we need, the proper job description even with the HR is missing. And like if we talk about large industries where the HR setups are there, so yes, definitely everything is documented. But at the end of the recruiter and the coordination between the immediate manager under which the new person is going to join, new employee is going to join, the coordination between the manager and the recruiter is also missing. Recruiter has been given a task that we need, let's say, 20 people or 30 people, 40 people in next 15 days. Without looking at it, whether 15 days is enough or not. There is no historical data that acquisition of an employee, new employee, takes, let's say, in a company 20 days or a month. After that, onboarding will take 10, 15 days. And then training of the employee will take, let's say, another 1 month, 2 months, or 3 months as per the company policies. So that means in total, if you look at the acquisition and the employee starts working from the day of you generate the vacancy to the time where employee starts working on it, in some large companies, it takes around 2 to 3 months, maybe 4 months, 5 months even. So the planning has to be much in advance. The biggest problem I've seen, like today we are managing a large job portal. We have more than 300 recruiters posting jobs on regular basis. And like I come with a vocational education background where 800 companies were associated with us. So most of the cases the recruiter I've seen is under pressure. I need 5 people immediately. I need 5 people tomorrow. Or maybe I need to have 50 people recruited within the next 15 days.
Absolutely.
So it is like buying. It is not onboarding of a candidate. It is buying.
right,
Like you go in the market and buy 10 kg apples. That's fine. Those are available. You go to multiple shops and find out the best and pick it up. But employees are not like that. A lot of things happens, like a person who is working in, let's say, auto industry, and he matches to your profile of selling experience. But the product, the culture, the kind of customer handling, the kind of probably what you call the brand pull, a lot of things comes up in picture. So until you judge a person with the 360 view, you really are hiring wrong. Most of the articles we see today on HR boards, you'll find that recruitment cost is not equal to the wrong hiring.
Yes.
We actually do not consider wrong hiring as the cost of acquisition. If we add that value, probably what Dipankar was saying, the acquisition cost will go much higher depending upon the number of employees somebody is onboarding.
Very true. Now, these are very important points. I think what Mr. Goyal you pointed out and what Dipankar pointed out, if I combine them together, one is identifying of the right talents, logistic constraints of reaching out, and shortlisting. Okay. And as Mr. Goyal you pointed out, I do agree. Culture plays a big role. Fitment into an organization structure. How will he or she fit in? I have seen with various organizations, they get a good person, a person who works in an organization, maybe the large organization, impressed by the brand name, may not be able to fit into a different culture. Is not used to systems and processes. Okay, because every organization says, and as you rightly pointed out, what we are discussing is in fact coming out from rich research which each of us have dived into for the last couple of years. It is not as simple as what Mr. Goyal also mentioned. Just saying 10 days, I need 5 people, I go to the market and get them. It's not. And if organization actually measures the cost and the opportunity cost lost because of wrong hiring, it is much, much higher than losing a business opportunity also, which is there. It plays havoc in the system.
Right.
So one question remains today is, how do I acquire the right talent? Okay. Right. And I'm sure there's a lot of work which is happening, and Mr. Goyal is also involved into it.
Right.
Now, before going to retention, I would come to Dipankar and then come to Mr. Goyal. And if you can just briefly point out what are the important parameters when I'm looking at like acquisition, an organization should look at, Dipankar. The first 2-3 important or 4-5 points, how they should evaluate when they're taking in a candidate. Please. Because one is I get a lot of resumes. Great. Right. But my challenge is, I was talking to a group of people last week. They're senior people, internationally also, in India also. This is something you won't believe. We have got 65 top level profiles. Everybody can contribute something. Now we don't know whom to go for.
Yes.
Okay. Open-ended question.
Yeah.
Yes, Dipankar. So what is that?
So based on whatever understanding we have and whatever experience and learnings over last few years we have in assessment industry, is when we look at acquisition, so we should look at 2 parameters. One is the eligibility, which has been the norm, where eligibility means people look at the qualifications, the certifications, the experience part of it, and whatever the learnings or the current scope or the work which an individual candidate is able to do. So those are the eligibility part of the other candidates. Now the other most important part is the suitability. So suitability means an individual's interests, behaviors, work preferences, right? The DNA of that individual. So all those factors actually makes up an individual. Because when you look at, when a person is on the job, he's always look at is what he's capable of doing it, whether he's suitable for a particular process or a job. While on the job, nobody looks at eligibility. What was his qualification earlier, experience or certification? Those are put on the back burner. So the most important part when you want to acquire a person is to judge the suitability of the candidate with respect to a particular job profile, right? If that suitability is there, then he will definitely fit into his particular maybe the process.
But the biggest question is, sorry to interrupt you, Dipankar, how do I measure the suitability?
Right. So now there are a lot of tools available to identify the suitability of the individual. There are, say, every individual in terms of research, there are more than 150 parameters of maybe traits and behavior of an individual. Now to measure or to judge these traits and behavior physically or in person or by an individual is going to take a lot of a job. So there are tools available. There are scientific tools. There are artificial intelligence built into tools, which analyzes using certain algorithms, which will take hardly about half an hour to judge and assess an individual, and it will throw upon
Right.
different suitable parameters of individual with respect to that particular job profile. So using those tools, you can easily identify. And so similar, like if you are doing a campus hiring for a big corporate, so if you want to hire say thousand of people, so it will not be possible to individually interview thousand guys. So you throw open this assessment to all these thousand people in one go. In half an hour, you will be able to at least shortlist 50 or 100 suitable candidates first, and then you can bring in those suitable candidates for a in-person or a formal interview to identify eligibility and other parts of it. So these using these tools can save a lot of time also, as well as identify the best, and it will not be person dependent. They are all scientific based assessment. And using those tools, you can have an unbiased and maybe an independent kind of analysis of different candidates.
Okay. So Dipankar, thanks for sharing that. So what you are saying is one is the qualification and next is the suitability. And what you are saying is suitability can be also measured or identified through various tools which are available.
Right.
Now at this juncture, let me come to Mr. Goel. Mr. Goel, as we have been working on various tools and we have been working on this focus area also, and you have been deeply involved into this for the last couple of years. So I'm coming back and putting the same question back to you as I placed it with Dipankar. How do an organization identify a suitable candidate? And since you have spent so much of time onto this, it will be great to hear from you. Please.
Sandeep, as you know that we are running one of the very upcoming and quite popular job portal now, which is eRecruit, where we do what the banker was saying, that a recruiter is not actually knowledgeable enough to qualify each and everybody individually. So what we do in eRecruit is that with every job post, we have given the liberty to the recruiter. They can attach various assessments. I mean, they can attach 1, 2, 3, 4 as per their requirements, and they can qualify hundreds of candidates within a matter of, let's say, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. We keep their jobs live for 30 days. But generally, the qualifying criteria is like if one test is, let's say, for 20 minutes, and the recruiter has kept 4 tests. So they can probably have the qualified candidate shortlisting in 80 minutes only. So that is one part of it. Now the second is, I'll take it from the other example, that it's like a shadi, a marriage. Now for selecting one candidate, I remember on an average, one family from the bride side or the groom side spends almost 1 year to the 2 years minimum.
Right.
A perfect matchmaking takes at least this much of time. Now, when it comes to the finalizing a candidate, we talk about bulk hiring. Bulk hiring is a word which should not be there, I must say, because every employee, you expect a certain amount of productivity. So when you buy in bulk, so even the vendor says some pieces may be found defective.
Right.
So the replacement clause is there.
Very true.
So now in this, what should happen basically when you go for the talent acquisition? First of all, the hurriness or the kind of urgency we have, fine, that today if I start making my acquisition in the process, so okay, for next 1 month or 2 months, you keep hiring the way you are hiring. But let's say a cutoff date, we start from Monday. So I can share, because I have dealt with hundreds of HR companies. Now the first foremost thing is that you must have a board where you see your upcoming vacancies in place for next 12 months or 24 months. Then you have to basically, like a painter, you have to visualize the picture, what this person should be like, and then what you expect from him, what will be their key deliverables. Now today you hired a salesperson, he's a sales manager, he's not a salesperson. Now definitely while closing the deal, he can guide, he can train the team, he can manage the team, he may not be able to perform the sales directly. So you need to see the actual outcome on which you are going to appreciate the employee, or maybe you are going to demote the employee. So that is the second part. Now the third part comes, you are more academically kind of a person you are looking, or you are looking for a practical person. Now my experience, I have trained more than 2 lakh students, and my student used to be like, after 10+2, we used to give them 6 months, 1 year course. And topmost IT companies started recruiting from us because our candidate used to be 60-70% job ready, whereas a diploma or engineering student, they used to put up a lot of hard work in training them.
Sure.
So what company is looking for, the qualification or the practical or the job readiness, and what percentage of it, how much time they are going to invest. Now I should have, like, it's a kind of a pre-cooked meal or the meal you are going to cook fresh. So in case you have time, the best part is that you must hire freshers and put them into incubation period where you train them, groom them as per your company requirement. They'll be more productive. Now where you have to have some pre-cooked food, where experience is also required, the past connections are required, a lot of basically what you call exposure or the crisis management and various other things are required. So then you have to paint a picture first.
Sure.
Now today you have every portal committing that I have 1 crore candidates, I have 7 crore candidates, I have so many candidates. But the moment you post a job, you are down with hundreds of resumes. Now I'll give you an example of just around 8 months back. We just tracked that how the interviews are happening now. Even most of the recruiters are still looking for the resumes. They are meeting them in person, and maybe in large companies, one floor is dedicated only for walk-in interviews. Every day interviews are happening. So it's like a carnival going on every day, a recruitment carnival.
Very true. Very true.
So keeping that into mind, first, like, okay, the crisis, the day you start your processes on, first you define the person, then you define his academic qualification, then you define what he should carry, what experience or maybe the knowledge. Then the biggest thing is what you will be expecting him to do, what you will expect him to achieve. 90% of the time, you just talk about qualification and his experience, but you never ask that you will be expected to achieve this much of sales or this much of production or this much of training hours you have to devote. You have to travel, let's say 15 days in a month. Many of the cases I've seen, the person is appointed, and once you put him on to travel from Monday to Friday, after 3-4 weeks, he says, this much of travel I cannot digest. So the person was right, but the job requirements were not explained.
The job description was not clarified.
Not clearly defined. So that is part one. Now, once you have identified that, yes, I am looking for such kind of people, then instead of posting on all the job portals, there are specific job portals, or maybe you can, like you have the referral schemes in the companies now.
Right.
And you have consultancies are there. So for immediate hiring, I think the best is that you go for a selected group of people where the similar kind of experienced people can be identified quickly. Now, the second part comes when you have like a planning of 2 years down the line. So then recruitment should be like sales. Every day, the hiring or the meeting candidates or qualifying candidates should be an ongoing process. And for that, I must say that you pick up the assessments which are more relevant to the companies. Today, if you speak to randomly 50 companies, you may find that out of 50, 45 may not be having any question, assessment, or job description with them. What they do, the recruiter will say, nothing, sir, I just browse it on Google, just cut and paste and do it. So that means hiring is not happening for his own company. Hiring is happening in a general perspective. Sales का बंदा चाहिए और sales के बंदे में ये 3-4 qualification चाहिए, and then you just pick him up. So it is not customized hiring going on, because even to the recruiter, he must not have gone to the sales ground that how sales is happening. Today, if you ask me to recruit a person for customer handling in a, let's say, an automobile showroom, if I have not seen the process, I probably will not recruit the right candidate.
Never. Mr. Boyd, I just interrupt you over here before we go to the next level. Anyway, we will come into what you were sharing. Just to bring a perspective to this entire thing, what you shared and what Devankar shared, we come to a conclusion very clearly from the experts as we have seen in the market. Qualifying the candidate and measuring or trying to analyze, is the person suitable for the job. Not only that, as Devankar and Mr. Goyal have repeatedly portrayed also, visioning the job role and defining the job description to the full detailed extent is what Mr. Goyal said is very, very important, right?
Yeah, in fact, in eRecruit, what we are doing, we are creating a job description for most of the job titles, and those will be editable, because this will give a reference to the recruiter, but not as a prefixed document.
Right. Because that's very important. Because see, what happens is when a person shares a resume, Today you have nicely decorated and created an authored resume available, but it speaks only that much what you can see. But to measure an individual's capability, there are a lot of areas with Dipankar and Mr. Goyal share. And we have to appreciate that recruitment is not just seeing a couple of resumes and having a gut feel. I'm involving him or her in my company's process day in, day out. So there has to be a clear understanding of what is the expectation out of that role for the candidate before he or she joins. For the organization, there has to be understanding a clear cut description about what is the qualification required, what are the measurement criteria which can help me judge the candidate, and then we go to the process of interviewing and forward into the process. So it is an engaging and involved process. That is what is coming out. Staying with this, let's travel a bit more into slightly deeper what Mr. Goyal were coming on to. I will take Dipankar into the area because he has been into talent assessing also. Dipankar, let's assume an organization, as we have, and Mr. Goyal has mentioned already, that we have to identify the right talent, measure the right talent, use tools to assess it. And Mr. Goyal also shared the difference between the identifying the right tool, which will actually work for me, and how to be created. Suppose after this, I have got the candidate. The important question is, how do I do a performance management to ensure the person is successful in a job? Dipankar, this is a very open-ended question for you, please.
So now, as you rightly pointed out, once the team has been recruited, they are onboarded, right, and they're on the job. Now they have to be regularly assessed, identified through different means, their performances, which anyway is going to be a regular process of the reporting manager. But on the job itself, the next thing which comes in, the training needs of an individual also while on the job. So now, when it comes to the training need analysis, organization follow a standard process of skilling. They have
Right.
certain fixed standard hours fixed in. HR will be told, okay, every individual has to be given, say, X hours of training over a period of 1 year. And HR will come out with certain fixed programs on communication skills or leadership skills or whatever standard modules which are available. And they will throw open everybody into the same set of training programs. And maybe that those will be 2 days, 3 days training programs. And then once they are out of those training programs, yes, maybe that's the end of it, and they'll come back to their regular routine jobs and forget about whatever has been learned or processed during those training programs, and their life is as usual. So now the new norm is basically, because when we discussed the suitability part of it, so the most important part which needs to be considered is every individual is different. So every individual has their own traits and behaviors. So there will be certain strengths in a particular person. There could be certain.
Right.
So it is very important to identify those strengths and weaknesses of that an individual. And now, when you are able to assess those strengths and weaknesses of an individual, so you need to work on those strengths much more. Weakness will always be there. You can always cover up those things through training analysis. So now the analysis of training needs will be done based on those outcomes. So the customized programs can be worked out when you know the team strengths, individual strengths, and then you need to see what the organization expectations are and work out programs according to those individuals and organization needs, rather than creating standard programs and putting everyone onto those standard programs. So that's the whole process while on the job, during the development process, identifying those needs and then working on the strength and weakness of different individuals as per the requirements. So that's the whole process which needs to be followed. And
Okay.
in terms of development, also growth also. So now, when you hire a sales guy and when you need to develop those guys into sales manager, so there is a difference between the KRAs, the requirements, job requirements, and the, you can say, the behaviors of a sales guy.
Yes.
A sales manager. It is not that a very good sales guy would always be a good sales manager. So the sales manager requirements are completely different, and the sales executive requirements will be completely different. So you
Right.
need to understand, when you have a team of people, you need to identify which individual has those traits and behaviors of a good manager, right? And then those
Yes.
are the things which you need to promote and see whether this X guy would be a good manager or this Y guy could continue to be a experienced sales manager, sales executive itself, because these two job roles are completely different. So if you throw upon a good sales guy just to make him happy and make him a manager, he will never be a successful manager unless.
So what I hear you saying, Dipankar, is with your experience which you have been handling and we have seen in organization, as Mr. Goyal also pointed out, a sales is a sales job, a manager is a manager's job.
Yes.
A person, as he or she matures and grows with experience, is not necessarily a
Right.
sales executive will transform automatically to a manager.
Definitely.
Or a manager can do a job.
Yes.
So here there's a very important thing which we have been insisting on, and which Mr. Goyal pointed out at the very beginning when we talked about acquiring talent, is HR most of the time functions aloof of the main company. Right, Mr. Goyal? That is what you pointed out.
Yeah.
And in fact, what I can hear from Dipankar is, to make this happen, performance happen, HR has to be integrated and should understand operation inside out and should work in close coordination. So it is not just a one-time function, get in, onboard, a good, nice, feel-good induction, and things are over. Okay? Hand-holding at every stage which is there. Before going further, Mr. Goyal, like you have been managing teams, large teams, partners also. So obviously, this is a question which you have been encountering and facing consistently, performance management. So yes, we are getting in a person after a lot of efforts. And as you have straight away pointed out, disconnect between HR and the regular operations. So what would you recommend to an organization to ensure the performance management is measurable and satisfying for an organization?
We want I'll probably quote one of my examples, the real life examples. It was somewhere back in 1999.
Yes.
I was interviewing candidates for the faculty posts.
Right.
And one guy came and I interviewed him for 5-7 minutes. He was a fresher with no experience. So I said, gentlemen, you are a fresher and for the faculty post, we need experience. He started crying.
Okay.
He said, sir, I have been interviewed almost at 15-20 places and everybody is saying same thing. But if nobody is going to hire me, how will I get the experience? He said so passionately these words. I said, you are hired. And I gave him that you are hired, but with the condition that you'll be delivering first of your seminar in next 15 days on the topic I'm giving you now. Go and prepare yourself. And I want that in your seminar, first seminar, the attendance is not your headache, but in second seminar, you must have good strength and you should be able to answer students' queries. He became one of my best faculty over time. Now, what happens is like the retention or the performance. Now, if you look at when we board a plane, there is a group of people designated for each and every plane. When we talk about a team participating in World Cup or any competition in sports, you have defined as manager, coach, maybe a sub-coach, junior coach. You have a team who is going to take care of their other things. If you talk about any particular restaurant, you have a manager outside, you have a host, you have waiters, you have duty managers. A lot of people are there. So part is that what we are missing in the industries or the companies is that the onboarding of an employee is something like you are pushing a person in the arena and just leaving him alone. Bhaiya, tu apne aap dekh liyo, you need to be now take care your own. Whereas the mentoring, until the recruitment happens, everybody is talking to him. But once the recruitment is over, people say you did not do anything. But the part is that he is alien to the company. He is a new guy. He doesn't know where to go, whom to talk. Nobody's your friend. There was a study I was just reading 2-3 days back. It says that if you have a friend in the company, your retention percentage increases by 30%. And if your boss is your friend, not like school buddy or something like that, but if he's a friend to you, probably your chances of retention increases by 70%. Now, we do not create or kill the alienness of the employee in the beginning. And then once the mindset is developed, then we paint that employee black. Yeah, he's not a good guy. He doesn't talk to anybody. He's not friendly. he's not mingling up with the team, he's not a team guy. But part is that the day he came on board, nobody spoke to him, nobody notices that. So what I feel that when we talk about performance, you see, who becomes the coach? The person who is doing the best. Though it becomes a burden for him, but actually the people who are best performers, they should be made mentors for such people coming on board, and at least 1 month or 2 months association assignment should be given to them, that these people you are going to take care, where probably every day 15-20 minutes of talk, 15-20 minutes of maybe on job experience or on job sharing of thoughts should happen.
Right.
Ultimately, it's like a seed you are putting in the company, and if you want a fruit bearing plant, so you have to really take care of it in the beginning. Once it is set in the earth, then probably yes, it will keep giving you fruits over a period of time. But in the beginning, companies generally, I mean, large companies, they do have mentorship, they do have everything.
Yes.
But if we are talking about medium-sized companies and small companies, they do not have enough manpower, or they do not focus on this. They say, we are paying you good salary, take care of that. We want results. What results? How? What all you must do? Those are not in the agenda. So performance is basically you have hired a person with by seeing everything in him. Now it's only making him a part of the company is the key. So mentorship, I think, is required. What Dipankar was saying. So I'm just adding that coaching of that employee once he or she is on board for a month, 2 months time, where he feels that yes, I have somebody to bank upon, I have somebody to talk to, and the team engagement exercise or team engagement activities plays a major role in this. Celebrating birthdays, you see, when you become a team, when you become friends, automatically the peer pressure makes you more performance oriented.
Very true.
So just to add over here, in fact, a good performance management system should have clear KRAs, KPIs defined, which is missing in most of the organizations.
Yes.
Once you have those KRAs, so KRAs could be one, a long-term one, could be annual, which should be split down to quarterly and even monthly. And KRAs, we should not leave it to just the KRAs. Maybe we should have key performance indexes also defined for each of the KRAs. So once you have a clear identification of what an individual is supposed to do, I think which needs to be monitored over a period of month or a quarter, and then a feedback is given on an individual's performance with respect to those KRAs and KPIs, then there will not be any kind of a disputes or any kind of misunderstanding on the roles and responsibilities of an individual. So both the reporting manager and the employee are clearly aware of what they are supposed to do and what is their achievement against those defined objectives,
right,
which can be measured over a period of time, and then the review happens with respect to that. So it is defined. It is not a verbal kind of understanding or arrangement which can lead to some kind of a dispute at a later stage when it comes to measurement of the performances.
Sandeep, I would like to add one more context to this.
Sure.
I remember, a couple of times I also might have committed this mistake. That's what I'm sharing. You see, at the moments, like when you are doing business, running a business with multiple employees, sometimes it happens that you forget to appreciate someone, and many times you just skip, or you just don't talk about the person who is not performing or who has committed mistake. Maybe because he's an old employee, he's more close to you. So you ignore the mistakes of a person who is not performing. And the person who is performing, you start appreciating less, and you probably whatever mistakes he commits, you start highlighting them more. So the environment of appreciation and non-appreciation, or maybe putting him in a different ladder, now that also becomes a kind of a roadblock in many of the cases where the employee feels demotivated that whatever I do, nothing is going to happen. He's close to my boss, and whatever he does or not does, he will always be appreciated. Even my appreciation will be counted in his account. So
yes.
Now, what Dipankar was saying, the KRAs, now the biggest problem is the people who are, even if you get it developed from the consultants, then also the problem is the person who is a reporting manager, he will not be able to complete the documentation, because it is something like you have 830 hours of job and you are given a task of 930, 10 hours already, and then you will expect that manager to complete those papers even. So you very well can understand those papers will be filled in probably in what kind of a pleasure time, I do not know. So if there has to be system, like I was just wondering while Dipankar was saying, people or the companies, if they can gamify the performance indicator,
Yes.
where a person knows that today I have earned 2 points, and tomorrow, despite if he's a C-level employee or a most junior employee, if they know that today my energy booster is like gone up by 2 points, and tomorrow it has gone down by 3 points. So it should not be in the hands of the people, because then the blackmailing comes that if you don't do this, I'll probably will not report you good. So something has to be looked at where people are appreciated or depreciated, not on the person individual mood, but technically.
Technically. So, see, today, if you see, it is a very interesting discussion, and I feel we should have one more session around this. Okay? A lot of points came up. And what is a takeaway today? Why I'm saying takeaway? Because we are coming very close to 4 p.m. We have been talking about a very, very scientific approach, right, Mr. Goyal and Dipankar? We have been talking about a very scientific approach to be taken, whether small or big organizations, whether KRA or gamifications. What we are trying to say is, hey, my organization is a vision. And whether I have 10 people, 20 people, or 2,000 people,
Right.
they are going to help me expand my business. So I have to spend quality time and well-informed, intelligent time in identifying. And when I identify, I see into the qualifications. Then I use scientific tools to measure,
Yes.
not a gut feeling.
Right.
And between identification and scientific tool, I first of all, as both of you mentioned, I have to have a clear-cut vision on the job role and define it as a well descriptive job description.
Yes.
So the person who is coming in, young, experienced, or very experienced, there's a clear-cut understanding. Then we utilize the tool. Now, performance management, there are excellent points which both of you brought across. Starting from measurable system and processes like KRS to be defined. And Mr. Goel has rightly pointed out, there will be KRS, but the person is working for 10 hours, so he or she will fill it up. I've seen in an organization a couple of weeks back, recruiting all across. The person is actually working 12 hours, HR pumping in CRM, PM, projects, put in your team sheet, put in your that sheet, finance gives him that. The poor guys are not able to even fill in their travel vouchers. Forget about filling in what they have done.
Right.
And on Saturday, our automated mail goes, dear Mr. or Miss So-and-so, you have missed filing in your last week's team sheet report. Now the poor guy gets depressed. Monday again, he or she starts pulling it up, week's gone. So these are happening in large organizations, not only small.
Right.
And very important for everybody to realize is we have to be not only systematic, we have to be scientific in all our approaches. And that, in fact, when Dipankar, you shared, we have been, and Mr. Goel, you have been delving in the last couple of years in trying to evolve and come out with a system and processes into this mad race of acquiring the right talent, retaining, give it some scientific approach.
Yes.
We are sorry we don't have time because there is much more to cover. But before we wind up, anybody has any queries? Uttam, we can see over there, Sanjeev or Sunil, if anybody has any queries or any suggestion, can put it on the chat, or you can unmute and speak up.
You see, I again probably reiterate what I said earlier. Now,
Yes.
Like I must say that the promoter should have two major roles.
Yes.
Business is handled by the frontline people. I remember the Ken Blanchard training session I attended. So he said you put all quack ducks on the front, and you do not empower the people who are handling your sales, who are handling your customers. And the power is with the person who has never met and gone on the floor. Now, that is what, if you look at hospitals, the nurses who are going to take care of the patient in the normal room, they are not empowered. They cannot do anything. Until the doctor comes, they are helpless. Even if a person dies, probably they will not give him any injection, even if they know that, yes, it can save his life. Now, that is what the biggest problem I see. This session I attended, I think, around 18, 19 years back. But still, wherever I go, I found people who are dealing with the customer, the frontline team, the least empowered they are.
Yes.
And the person who is in the room, whom probably you will not come to see for once even in your lifetime, the entire power or the what you call the empowerment word is with him only. Now, that's what scenario. There should be a complete change in the system. The frontline people, at least they
should be empowered.
Now, this what the banker said, KRA and the job role, job responsibilities.
Right.
This the lack of this empowerment is just because of that the documentation is not there. The definitions are not created. Job roles are not defined. Company does not know that what should be done.
Right.
I recently visited a patient in hospital. So they have, I saw that there is a chart that if this happens, this injection can be given. If this happens, this injection can be given. But still, the nurse who is attending, he or she has to take the permission from the senior. And today, calling a senior, connecting with him, maybe that might be the golden time for the patient to survive.
Yes.
Now I really can give a lot of examples on this. So I think the next takeaway from my side will be the company, the promoter or the CEOs, they must spend time on empowering their team, managing their finances. The second biggest job I see it as finances. So the people management and training them, empowering them should be the key focus area of any promoter or any businessman or any founder, because they are the people who are making your dreams happen.
Great. I think it was a quite enriching discussion, and I think this particular subject needs to be dealt with in details as we go forward, and maybe we can have another session around it, because this has been an impacting factor for any businesses. Thank you, Dipankar, for your precious time and your valuable thoughts which you shared. It's good to have you on this forum, and we look forward to more of such sessions in the future.